Okay, welcome everybody to this episode of TIG Talks. This is the podcast taped in front of a live virtual audience, which is you. And we're doing another pitch sprint today, which is super fun. The purpose of it is really to give some founders the opportunity to pitch in front of a panel of investors and learn what is said about their pitches when they leave the room. The goal of this is to really not only provide them with actionable and meaningful feedback and input, but also for all of you listening who are also in the throes of fundraising, give you some insight and tips and things that may be constructive as you shape your investor narrative and conversation. So before I introduce my panelists, a quick just rundown housekeeping. So the way this is going to work is each founder will have 5 minutes to pitch, and then there'll be a 5-minute Q&A. There are 4 companies pitching. At the end of the 4 pitches, then this investor panel, and we'll have a little discussion about what we heard, what we liked, what we felt like the founders maybe missed in their presentations, and also, again, just some tips and things that may make future pitches for all of you listening more effective. So with that, I'll start with introductions, and I'll start with Nick, because Nick McCoy with Whipstitch Capital, and then I'll introduce the team from Echo Capital. So Nick, a quick hello and just a quick introduction, if you would.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick, co-founder of Whipstitch Capital. We work with companies like the ones presenting when they're a little bit further along, helping them raise money and helping them sell when it's time for them to do that. We also work with larger companies in their quest for buying smaller companies. We spend a tremendous amount of time going through data to try to figure out what is going to add value to brands from a strategic decision standpoint, and also what in third-party data exists to validate a brand's, kind of a brand's value, since a lot of our work is trying to get the highest valuation and best terms for the brands we work with. So that's why a lot of the genesis of my questions is going to be around margins, sell-through data, and kind of category dynamics.
Great, and thanks for doing this, Nick. And
yeah,
then
thank you, Elliot.
The team from Echo Capital, Sabrina, Stephen, and Ben. So I'll start with Sabrina and maybe a quick introduction and a little bit, I don't know which of you wants to do the background on Echo, but I'll let you fight over that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. Team Echo, happy to represent in full force. So my name is Sabrina Miraj Naeem, and I founded Echo in 2004. Yeah. And it was really the idea was to create a venture capital fund that was looking to invest in early stage consumer product companies, not just as a capital provider, but also as a strategic partner with a background and understanding in food and operations and the consumer in a way that we really thought was lacking in the investment arena at the time. Particularly right now, food and beverage is having a renaissance. So being able to utilize our many, many years of experience in that way and to leverage that to young entrepreneurs has been particularly valuable. Being a young team ourselves and understanding the consumer needs and the value that brands can bring to the consumer marketplace has also been a great value add for brands. And so we are excited to share some of our thoughts and knowledge, and I will pass it along to Ben, who is my kind of VP, co-founder, and trusty ally through this process.
And relatively new dad.
And new dad, that's right.
Congrats.
And you're on mute.
That's the only thing in the Echo bio that was not said. Yes, relative new dad. I won't go into the background since Sabrina did a phenomenal job. But I'm Ben Levy and excited to be a part of this today, Elliot. Thanks for having us.
No, thrilled to have you. Stephen?
Great. I'm Stephen Daubert. I am the newest member of Echo and an associate there. Happy to be a part of this and excited to ask some questions.
Perhaps newest, but certainly not new.
Yes.
That needs to be said. You've been with us for a number of years now.
And the real reason they got invited is because Stephen named his daughter after me, Elliot, his daughter number 2. So
Very true. Very true.
He always gets extra props for that. So, all right. So we're going to start. And our first founder is Renee Dunn with Amazi. So Renee, if you'll come on and I'll start the clock. Once you pop in, you can screen share and we'll get going. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here. Thank you for having me. I always take a second to figure out the screen share. All right, shares. Do we have success?
We do. And you are starting right now with your 5 minutes. Go.
All right. Hi, I'm Renee Dunn, and I'm the founder of Amazi Foods. Snacking. It's generally a pretty mindless activity, right? We pick it up, scarf it down, unsatisfied and disconnected. But now, more than ever before, people crave connection in what we consume daily. There's a call for purpose and transparency that will shift the status quo. So what if snacks could be that change agent, taking you from mindless to mindful? Enter Amazi Foods, on a mission to help you snack on purpose through our made in Uganda plant-based tropical snacks. Every bite you take directly supports our mission to support sustainable, more equitable supply chains and closes the gap between source and consumer. Together, we help consumers eat good, feel good, and do good too. How exactly? Well, let me backtrack. I studied abroad and did my thesis research in Uganda. And while living there, I was blown away by the organic tropical fruits that were bursting with flavors that I didn't get at home. But stand after stand, people were trading fruits raw or looked for cheap ways of processing or exporting. And I had heard stories about cocoa farmers never seeing a chocolate bar, but realized that this anecdote sums up a lot about our supply chains as a whole. Those at the resource are completely separate from the opportunity and the innovation that exists in the global market, resulting in very high unemployment and food waste. Meanwhile, back at home, consumers are actively looking for products that serve a higher purpose. So there's a huge opportunity missed, not only for local industry and job creation, but also to satisfy a growing need for the US consumer. There's a huge rise in plant-based, and amidst that, demand for more unique fruits and flavors. And as snackification grows as a part of the US diet, we're looking for more clean and healthy options. But above that, brands with purpose are driving traction more than their competitors, as 67% of consumers say they search for brands with a purpose. So our solution was to connect the ingenuity, drive, and bounty of Uganda with the American consumers who crave both good food and story. We source directly from farmers and then keep the production in country by partnering with small businesses, building skills, educating on market preferences, and in turn, offer purpose-driven snacks to America's growing conscious consumer market. That's how the Amazi brand came to be. 100% made in Uganda snacks, vegan, paleo, minimally processed. Each product is made with just 3 simple ingredients, but the flavors are anything but. It's a much needed twist to the boring dried fruit category. Our 2 main product lines are our plantain chips and our jackfruit juice. Our plantain chips are dried and roasted, never fried, so they have a very hearty crunch and none of that greasy residue that you typically get. They also have a subtly sweet flavor to them, which makes them very versatile. Our jackfruit chews are like grown-up fruit roll-ups. They're sticky, they're chewy, they're sweet, but they're made with just fruit and spices, nothing else, and are very high in fiber. So we compete on flavor, health, story, and price. In late 2019, we rolled out to Sprouts Market, and of course, prior to COVID, had big plans to continue expanding in retail, but we've since really leaned into D2C and also relaunched our Amazon listings just recently with improved pricing. We're continuing to be curated in our rollout to brick and mortar retail in the years to come. But you don't have to take our word for the traction. We've been humbled by favorable features from retailers, publications, and consumers alike. But above all else, as we aim to convert snacking from mindless to mindful, our ultimate hope really is to have social impact. So in just the next few years, we've projected an additional $1.6 million in income for our farmers and over 150 jobs created for youth, which builds skills and market connections for the next generation, all in the hopes of ultimately achieving a true shift in the current power dynamic in our value chains. But of course, to achieve this, we're looking for support. We're asking for $500,000 to help build brand awareness, drive discovery, build our team, and continue supporting our transparency by helping us get certifications and improved reporting. So, will you join us in the shift from mindless to mindful? We hope you'll choose to snack on purpose today. Thank you.
Great job, Renee. Right on time, too. 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Can't do much better than that. So, all right, well, let's start with the Q&A, and I'll start with Team Echo and let you all decide. See, Ben's the one unmuted, so I'm going to go to Ben first with the first question.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee.
Thanks, guys.
So really appreciate the fact that you've found a way to actually manufacture and produce a product in Uganda. My questions are around quality control and real kind of stewardship of the supply chain and ensuring that you're actually espousing ethical practices there that you would want to see not only in the States. So how are you really controlling that process?
Sure. That's been like the utmost thing to figure out over the past few years. I've actually been working on this for 4 years. When I first started developing the products and developing the relationships, I did find sort of a third-party manufacturer that was making dried fruit, and over time found that with that relationship, we weren't able to have as direct a line of impact and or transparency and quality control. So over the past couple years, we actually partnered with our Ugandan partners, and they own the facility, but it's an Amazi dedicated facility. They're under inspection now for ISO 22000 certification, and the quality of the product is like the best it's ever been. We have a very close relationship with them, and the team there has an extensive background in food science. They're really eager, and we also directly get reports on how much more the farmers are being paid relative to market price, how much our employees are being paid, and making sure that's all aligned within our pricing model. And of course, when I personally go meet with our farmers, we have a very open conversation about the entire pricing along the supply chain and work together to find sort of a price that will allow them to always get above market, but that will allow us to continue to thrive through the whole chain.
Got it.
I'm going to toss it over to Nick.
Hi there. I like that you have your brand as, kind of it's not tied to a specific ingredient. So that, because if I think about the side of the snack aisle that you're on, there's actually a fairly low bar in conventional grocery for the sell-through if you compare it to, where Doritos and, all of that is. Yeah. And there tends to be a pretty big availability for multiple SKUs. So the idea that you could have multiple fruits or multiple, whatever you might put in there in flavors, if you look at things like Bear and Rhythm, companies like that, that's kind of what they do. It's kind of like baby food. It's, lots of products and lower sell-through each. Yeah. If you're tied to Uganda, I guess how many, what's kind of the scope of fruits that are grown there that you could, sell? I know you could do probably 3 or 4 flavors each, but how many do you think you could sell that would appeal in the US? Because I'm thinking about how big can the brand kind of get and still stay with Uganda as a tie down? Yeah, I love that question because part of what inspired me to start is just how many fruits they had. I actually had a hard time deciding which SKUs to start with and had way too many to begin with and pared it back. They have papaya. There are also a lot of byproducts that I can make with the jackfruit. They have a number of different kinds of banana. They have pineapple, they have mango. They also have a lot of like cassava and tubers and such that you see being innovated with now as well. So there's a lot to work with.
Great. We got time for one more question, so I'll go to Sabrina.
Sure.
Thanks, Renee. I'd like to talk a little bit about differentiation. Nick mentioned Bear and Rhythm. I think there's an argument to be made for companies that are going into plantain chips like Banana, and there are others. You know, your slogan being snack on purpose, it really translates to a snack that has a larger purpose. And although I think that that's something that consumers have been really looking for in the last 5 to 10 years, that's no longer enough of a differentiator. The social or environmental give back, I think, started to lose favor with consumers, given that so many new startup brands were trying to capitalize on a more marketing kind of gimmicky view of impact. So I'd like to ask, how are you differentiating through that? And how are you differentiating through your product profiles with, you know, some pretty established brands out there?
Absolutely.
You're going to have to answer this one pretty quickly.
Okay. So
sorry, it was a long question.
yeah, I was like, I had a long answer. But I guess with regards to product differentiation, you know, we make our chips very different than the typical plantain chip, and we actually merchandise it closer with like superfood or dried fruit products. They're very sweet and crunchy. Like, they don't taste anything like other plantain chips on the market. Similarly, our jackfruit chews are one of the only snacks that is highlighting jackfruit as that sweet tropical fruit, and one of the only ones breaking into the snack category with jackfruit as not a savory option. That's the best I could do in short with the product side. But
that's perfect. Actually, I'm going to cut you off there just because we're out of time.
I'll answer you another time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Renee, for joining. So terrific job. And we'll be talking about you behind your back here shortly. So now we're going to bring Jeff Burbank in from Fluid Cold Brew. So Jeff, the floor is going to be yours. Go ahead and share your screen. And when I see it pop up, I'm going to hit start and you're on the clock.
Great. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me and see my screen okay?
Yep. We got them both. You might want to go to...
Okay, great. There we go. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jeff Burbank. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fluid Beverages, and I'm really excited to share with you Fluid Cold Brew today, which is a refreshing new take on the cold brew coffee category. Now, before I get into the deck, a little bit about me. So I started my career, I spent time in consulting, and a couple years ago, my journey to Fluid really began as a consultant and working out in Las Vegas, where typically people only spend a few days a year out there, but I would actually go there 4 days a week, every week for 2 years. And I joke with people that I drank more cold brew coffee than anyone in America during that period of time, and I've tried them all. And I had all experiences of just crashes of energy, drinking unhealthy drinks, and struggles with hydration, which all brought me to create Fluid. Now, just as a baseline, I think what we all know and appreciate is that coffee is an amazing beverage. It's the ritual choice for Americans to start their day. And to energize themselves. But there's just one drawback in that it's perceived as being dehydrating, and it is in fact the least hydrating staple beverage. A study recently found it to be in 13th place, last place out of 13 staple beverages. You might ask, you know, does that really matter? If I'm dehydrated, I'll drink water when I'm thirsty, and it's okay. But estimates have 3 out of 4 Americans being chronically dehydrated, and that's because people struggle to drink 8+ cups of water a day. You know, life gets in the way, you're busy, and it's just tough to keep up with. And that has a real impact too. So it can drive to fatigue, low energy, lack of focus. And these are all things that I know I dealt with every single day during my time out west. And it's something that a lot of other consumers and people deal with regularly. And it's also what brings me to coffee. I often drink it when I have low energy. And that's what was really the exciting opportunity that brought us to create Fluid Cold Brew. So we're on a mission to hydrate your coffee. Fluid is it's coffee you love, hydration you need, and it gives you energy you feel. And we have premium ingredients throughout each of the cans. So we have 100% organic Colombian coffee in each can, as well as just 3 really delicious SKUs from our oat milk to our smooth and refreshing black coffee, as well as our cacao mocha, which uses organic cacao, Peruvian cacao. And they all taste really rich and smooth and refreshing. And they all have a blend of electrolytes, that help to retain fluids in your body and to improve hydration. And lastly, we're most proud about the healthy benefits of fluid or having healthy ingredients in sticking with 0 sugar and low calories. So all 3 are less than 40 calories. And if you zoom out and look at the overall beverage category across 2 dimensions, so hydration has been around for a long time, sports drinks, coconut waters, and then also there are a lot of energy drinks, but there really isn't anything that combines the 2, hydration and energy. And that's the unique opportunity in space that fluid occupies in the overall beverage area. And then if you zoom into the cold brew category itself, it's a very crowded category, but we see really interesting white space there. Whereas on the bottom row, you're accustomed to a lot of different cold brews and indulgent frappuccinos, lattes on the shelf. But all the growth is in the functional coffees. Consumers are looking for function and return on what they're buying on the shelf. But they all have a lot of calories and they have a lot of sugar as well. So fluid's real opportunity to be in that low calorie, low sugar option that you can feel good about when you're drinking. And, you know, fluid it's not just about theory. We worked all last year to design and develop the product. And we took it to New York City to run a pilot and testing just throughout the summer. So we sampled with over 3,000 coffee drinkers, partnered with leading health and wellness companies, where we had a partnership with Flywheel. We'd be opening up yoga studios with Y7, helping them to give out product to customers, and just getting great feedback that we can take in and use to improve and optimize our product with fluid cold brew.
45.
And during that time, we found a great fit with 3 segments, so fitness enthusiasts, millennial office workers, wellness women who are looking for a clean, healthy option. And we have a go-to-market that is really poised for success with COVID. So we're shelf stable, launching on Amazon. We have a very hyper-local targeted strategy in Brooklyn and Queens, the residential areas in New York City, to grow from a strong base. And we are raising $500,000. That is with most of it going to marketing, building brand awareness, as well as hires and working capital. And it's on a convertible note. And then lastly, we have an excellent team who've been working together for a long time. We've been together for over a year, and it's just it's a great team that's really poised for success and sees the opportunity going forward. So lastly, I just want to say thank you, stay hydrated, and I really look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Great job. Great job. 2 seconds over. I was very generous. You know, that's me though. Okay. So this time we're going to start with Stephen in the Q&A, and I am hitting start. You got 5 minutes of Q&A. So Stephen.
Jeff, I appreciate you getting on and participating here. My question is around taste. Does adding electrolytes alter the taste in any way? And are you adding enough electrolytes to really claim some benefits as a hydrating beverage?
Definitely, yeah. So taste is really crucial. So we spent so much time last year calibrating the taste so that you don't taste the electrolytes. It's all coffee, and the electrolytes are less than the threshold of you actually tasting it. But what's so special about it, it actually changes the texture of the coffee. So it's a smoother, more refreshing texture to it through the electrolytes. That just gives you that more of a iced coffee feel from a coffee shop, as opposed to you know, a thick cold brew coffee in a can. So it's a really nice addition to the taste and flavor. And then we use robust ingredients to taste really rich with our, especially oat milk and cacao mocha as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, Nick, question for Jeff.
Sure. So Jeff, thanks for coming on. I like that you're shelf stable because that in itself is a differentiating factor in cold brew. It also opens the door more easily to convenience because most of the supply chain there is shelf stable and not refrigerated, or at least the easy to access supply chain. So thinking about one thing with beverage, you know, cost, calories, and caffeine can be limiting factors for how much you can drink. And just thinking that this does have a lot of caffeine, which, you know, cold brew does, which I think is good. And you have a hydration focus. Have you thought about doing a larger bottle size, which, you know, or larger can size, which would have, you know, maybe the same caffeine, but have, I don't know, whatever it might be that would kind of dilute it so it would actually have more liquid to hydrate? And one of the other reasons I ask that is I think back to one of the things that made Bai so successful When they rolled out Buy 5 and got rid of the old bottle, they really designed the bottle literally so it would pop on the shelf. You know, it was a white label. The label was very high in the bottle and it was tall, so it would stand out on the convenient shelf.
Definitely. Yeah, you know, we so a few things, like really good points about the hydration and the caffeine content there. So we do have an 11-ounce product to have more liquid for hydration, and we also we have been our R&D and innovation pipeline does include a lot of options for also scaling back the caffeine to be more approachable and palatable for more consumers as well. And it's just really for us, it's the bar of taste, just to make sure that we can get to the right level of that taste and balance. Because right now we are pure Colombian coffee that's in there, and it's a really good balance that we found. Yeah, so we're absolutely working on that with experimenting with can sizes, and then also with the labeling and packaging, we're always optimizing and rearranging that as well.
Great. Sabrina, do you have a question for Jeff?
Yeah, this is a category we know pretty well, given Super Coffee is actually a portfolio company of ours. And in your competitive landscape, you identified the coffees that have 80 calories or more as high caloric. And I'm wondering if you have any data that shows that consumers are viewing 80 calories as being a lot in a bottle of coffee or in a can of coffee. And, you know, obviously 40 is less than 80, but I'm wondering if that is really a differentiator, or if you're going to have to educate the consumer about something different than what's out there already.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, the 80 was actually just a natural number that helped us to create a quad on the slide. But what we really found is just consumers are looking for like just nothing. Like they want the lowest. Some people want low calorie, just as close to zero as they possibly can go. And that's really the type of people that we are looking to service with Fluid. But to your point, I mean, there's so many consumers that have been perfectly comfortable with 80 plus calories. I mean, especially how well Super Coffee is done at around that level. And we're just looking to work with those consumers that they just want the bare minimum, cleanest, just simple, low calorie ingredients.
Great. Jeff, that's perfect. And that takes us right about to our time. So thanks so much. We'll have you go ahead and take your screen down and head back into the background so we can talk behind your back in a minute. This is all the fun part.
Thank you.
And next we're going to bring up Brian and Jeff from Real Cocoa. So Brian's actually sitting on the coconut plantation as he
I wish I was right now. Hi guys. Hi everyone. Hi. Can you hear everyone?
So I think you're going to do the screen share. So go ahead.
I will do that.
And we'll hit start and we'll let you guys go. 5 minutes on the clock.
All right. Screen share. There we go. Not working.
And you're on.
Great. Hi everyone. I'm Jeffrey Kung, and this is my business partner Brian.
Hello everybody.
Thank you for the opportunity today, and thank you Elliot and TIG. So in 2012, we noticed that coconuts were really taking off. Being that both Brian and I lived in Asia, we're very familiar with the delicious taste and health benefits of the coconut. However, everything on the market didn't really taste like the real thing. So we were determined to do better and be true to the raw ingredient, call it Coconut 2.0. And that's why we started Real Cocoa. We're humbled to report that to date, we've sold over 50 million bottles of Real Cocoa. And so why were we so disappointed with everything on the market? We did a little research and discovered that a few things that Brian will share with you, our resident coconut guru.
Thanks. You know, our process shouldn't be revolutionary, but compared to the landscape, it is. All other coconut milk-based beverages are using dry and or desiccated coconut powder sourced from multiple countries and reconstituted here in the US, versus our process, which is bottled fresh at the source from single source organic farms, in this case, Vietnam. That means a rich, authentic coconut experience without the needs for blends, additives, or concentrates.
So what did we do? Well, we actually went to the source, many sources, in fact. Brazil, Philippines, Mexico, Sri Lanka, and finally ending up in Thailand and Vietnam, where we found the best coconuts that we've ever had. So now as founders, we go 3 times a year to those places, meet with local farmers, help them meet their farming goals while respecting their farming practices. But we do this all in a very sustainable way. We decided a few things were very important to us: low carbon footprint, minimal plastic use, competitive pricing. That's why all of our products are shelf stable, require no refrigeration. We practice regenerative farming and are competitively priced. In fact, that's a photo of one of our Thai factories, going to be net zero carbon emissions by 2021. As a bit of history, we began our business in China, but quickly pivoted to the USA, and we had our first major opportunity in Costco. Brian, take it away.
And fortunate to establish that long, strong partnership with Costco. This partnership provided many benefits. Number one, leveraging the supply chain, utilizing good cost of goods, building a defensive moat around our supply chain, validating the brand through effective demos and trials, and thus scaling out the business in a very capital efficient manner. We've been a top performing coconut brand in the regions that we sell, outperforming the incumbent or even private label brands, and have enjoyed a 5-year plus relationship, which we only see continuing into the future. Next slide, Jeff. The quick updates on financials. We've had consistent organic year-on-year growth of around 24%, finishing last year in 2019, 8.4 million in sales. We've been profitable since 2018 and are on track to exceed our 10 million revenue target by about 25% in light of COVID, or despite COVID.
Now, we're really proud of what got us here, but more excited to share with where we are going. As everyone knows, plant-based is a trend. I'm sorry, not a trend, it's really a movement. And plant-based coffee creamers last year saw a 30% increase in sales, and this is our offering. This actually just entered the market. It's super creamy, also the only plant-based creamer, coconut creamer that's completely bottled at the source and completely organic. This is our pink Nam Home. Now, this is previously the only way to get this quality of coconut water was cold pressed, refrigerated, bottled option. But through our innovation, we can offer the same quality in a Tetra Pak. Now, this year we announced these 2 product offerings and have already begun to see traction on Amazon as well as brick and mortar. Being mindful of where our customer is, we plan on expanding distribution into the all-natural channel as well as traditional grocer in the ensuing few months. Now, beyond that, we're looking to open specialty channels as COVID subsides, as well as heavily invest in e-com. Now, despite these recent challenges,
1 minute, Jeff.
we have already begun to execute our plan. We're extremely excited to launch the creamers in pink in Harmons, Erewhon, as well as Foodland later this month. We're proud to report that during Q1 of 2020, we saw 2.3 million in revenue with 0 hiccups in our supply chain. Q2, we just closed out with 2.5 million in revenue. This year, for obvious reasons, we've also focused on Amazon. So we're proud to say that we are the #1 new release on Amazon for our pink and our coconut milk, as well as Amazon's choice for coconut milk. Our creamers will be launching this month, and we expect equally strong numbers. To execute this plan, Real Cocoa is seeking growth capital to really expand our product lineup, increase distributions, do a lot of brand building, and increase our online sales. Now, we're really excited, extremely capital efficient and careful with every investment that we take. We've built this business in a very organic way, and now we're looking to bring the right partners to bring this to the next level. 700,000 raised to date from friends and family, and we're looking to raise 2 million in this next round. So thank you everyone for all of your time, and looking forward to your questions. Great
job. 5 minutes and 4 seconds.
All right.
I'm a giver today.
Barely. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you.
So we are going to start with, wait, I just wanted to say one thing. Yesterday, when they did a rehearsal of this, they were at 14 minutes. So pretty amazing job of cutting this down. Yesterday afternoon to today. Big props there.
I tried not to speak too fast.
You go first, man, with the first question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So interesting to see your early growth, and obviously Costco has been a great initial partner for you guys. And really within that set, there's a limited option of coconut waters, and you have an adventurous shopper that is willing to do that initial trial. Yeah. My question is, in a pretty saturated landscape of coconut waters, once you get into retail and once you move beyond that channel, how are you going to get the consumers to actually try the product? how are you going to tell them that the taste is different, it's sourced, it's that split second that's going to have them actually try yours versus all the incumbent brands?
Go ahead. Yeah, Brian, take that.
Great question. Our business is really two pillars: coconut waters and milks. So with our general positioning is that we'll offer an organic offering in line with a non-organic kind of incumbent brand. So we find that coconut lovers or connoisseurs, they like to try all brands. And we feel that on-the-shelf positioning, being in line with, say, a Vita Coco or a Zico, that's been a very winning strategy for us. Being single ingredient, organic, kind of checking all those boxes. And the same applies on the milks or creamers. So outside of just traditional retail, I mean, we're focusing heavily on D2C. Also opening up more within food service to really kind of build within influencers to drive additional trial just outside of the platform that we have with Costco.
Great. Stephen, you're up.
Great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys presenting today. My question is around margin profile. If you're offering a single source organic product in line with the incumbent brands, what are you priced similarly? And if you are, how does that impact your margin profile?
Yeah, good question. So I'd say our two products lines would be, I'd say, our more mature items, which are coconut water, or 1 liter organic water and 1 liter organic milk. Those are going to have margins that are pretty traditional. I'd say in the Costco around 30, traditional grocery probably around 35 to 40. Our innovations within the creamers and the pinks, those are going to be more in the 45 to 50 range. As far as compromising margin, I'd say one of the big advantages we have is because we have that relationship with Costco, we for sure have some of the best cost of goods in the space. So that allows us, without giving up margin, to execute that kind of strategy. We also run a very lean business. Our model is really using fractional services rather than hiring on staff. So we have a great, best in class with our accounting, sales, marketing. That allows us to be very capital efficient and still maintain the right margin requirements.
Thank
Great.
you.
Nick, you're up with a question.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on today. This is really interesting. I love that you're regeneratively farmed. I think playing that up, you guys are ahead of your time. So, as much as you can play that up, I think that's going to be a rising tide for you over time. My question was going to be about margins. So I'm glad you asked that. But, related to margins, in your talks outside of Costco with retailers, both in the natural and, the conventional channel, how much of a price premium do you think that you can have based on, the supply chain work that you've done and, how that's going to be, it's going to be a better quality product than what's there. That's your differentiation, because that'll also play into your margin long-term too.
Yeah, I mean, going one by one, for example, our 1 liter, it's not featured in the deck, but you can check it on Amazon. Our 1 liter organic pure, that'll retail, let's say, at $3.99, going in line with $3.99 with a Zico or Vita Coco. Our 1 liter organic coconut milk, that'll go against like a So Delicious or a Silk. Again, $3.99 in line organic versus non-organic offering. $3.99, I guess, is kind of our magic number.
Yeah, same thing.
Nut pods within our creamer space. Typically, they're retailing around $3.50 to $3.99, depending if it's on deal. Again, in line with an organic offering, checking all those boxes. And then lastly, with the pink, we're going right up against Harmless with that item. And on average, we're probably around a 30% value per ounce against like a Harmless at around a $3.49 price point. So we actually don't even necessarily sell at a premium. We're just going in line with these non-organic or cold press incumbents.
In fact, if I can add, on sales calls and meetings, we actually send samples with our competitors to have them cut it side by side so they can actually taste the difference.
Great.
Interesting.
Jeff, Brian, nice job. Way to cut it down. Super impressed. Thanks for joining. I'll let you guys go to the back so we can add you to those that we're going to talk behind their backs, which is part of all this. And we're going to bring up Jared. So Jared with Littleby is coming back. He did participate in our prior one, but had the joys of Zoom where technical difficulties prevented him from being able to do his full pitch. So we've invited him back to do it fully this time. So Jared, thanks for joining, and we'll let you go ahead and share your screen, and we'll hit go.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, and you're on.
Thank you, Elliot, and kind greetings, folks. By way of an introduction, I want to share that for my entire working life, my passion's been to make healthy food that people love. And so I took that passion and the skills learned working in some of Colorado's best restaurants to create what would become the snacks that you see today. And before I knew it, I'd become the founder of Lillaby. You know, we are all about making that better for you, healthier alternative to traditional cookies and snacks. And then we level up. We bring it with amazing flavor, crunch, and delight, because I never lost sight of the intention that these cookies are the tastiest, most healthful indulgence that you've ever tried, to satisfy not only the need for eating better to feel better, but more important, eating better to feel better about eating, indulgence without the guilt. This is a worthy mission, and I would like to invite you to become part of helping me grow this amazing brand. I'd also like to answer a question that I often hear, which is, why Lillaby? Why is this a thing? Well, in 2020, consumers worldwide are going to spend $8 billion on cookies, $2 billion alone just on Oreos. Our category is one of the largest in the entire grocery business, a giant sleepy category. And I saw an opportunity because I think it's full of products offering little more than filler ingredients, empty calories, boring line extensions, and recently, chemically derived sweeteners that offer dubious health claims. I'm looking at you, erythritol. I believe those cookies are stale and consumers deserve a better choice. And I've dedicated Lillaby to making products that solve a problem. Snacks serve many purposes, and there are many good snacks. A good snack meets a singular need, a specific purpose. For example, a bar offers to refuel, Oreos offer indulgence, but that leaves the consumer stuck. Nobody has an Oreo after a workout, and does anybody really eat an RX bar for delight? Well, now the right snack need not sacrifice nutrition, function, or indulgence. And Lillaby snacks are the right snack because there's no sacrifice. They unify the functional and emotional. They solve the problem. But will consumers connect with our solution? Well, here's how we found out the answer. Our go-to-market strategy focuses on Amazon, Thrive, and curated, profitable retail. Next up is a Lillaby website 2.0, where we go D2C, and when the pandemic eases, a thoughtful entrance into grab and go. And that strategy is working. In 2019, with only 4 SKUs, we did $440,000 in e-com sales. We generated 400 unpaid reviews. Our subscribe and save was 7%. Our ACOS was 10. And we did all of this with 0 paid media or marketing. The engagement's there. The repeat business is there. The potential was activated through minimal platform advertising and mostly word of mouth. So imagine what could be done if we spent $200,000 on digital discovery and consumer acquisition. And we had true pros in charge of that spend. And we utilized Instagram and Facebook and Google ads to tell our story and to grow our tribe. And what if we doubled our SKUs? Well, with your help, that's exactly what we're going to do. To execute our strategy fully and accelerate our momentum, I'm seeking to raise $250,000 of growth capital. And as an investor, you'll find favorable post-pandemic terms, which manifest the great value that I place on your joining us at this critical time. And that $250,000 will last us 12 months, take us to $1 million in sales, and more significantly, bring us to EBITDA positive and cash flow positive. Because growth capital should be used for growth. And unfortunately, many CPG brands can't do this because of their overhead, but we built Lillaby to be different. Our capital efficient structure, our channel strategy, and product margins all support this impactful use of funds, and it's not lip service. 95 cents on every dollar we raise this way will be spent on building consumer awareness and brand ubiquity online. And I'd like to ask each of you to please consider setting aside 30 minutes of your time in the next week so that I might share more in depth about this vision for the future of snacking. And if I might borrow a tactic that I learned when during a moment of weakness, I signed up for Tony Robbins' email list. Our time together has been amazing, and I don't want it to end. It'll be gone soon, and so I don't want you to miss out. Please, if you can offer me that time, I'm going to send you these amazing cookies. So really, there's no downside here. It's 30 minutes and great cookies. Thank you.
Nice job, Jared. Glad that technology allowed us to do it this time.
Was my
So,
friend.
okay, I'm going to start the questions with Sabrina.
Thank you, Jared. As an investor, when I see things like $1 million in revenue and EBITDA and cash flow positive, I get a little suspicious. So what I want to understand is, a $250,000 ask is not a lot. And a 12-month runway off of that is a lot of runway. So what I want to understand is, how are you really planning on scaling this business, and how sustainable do you think it is that you will remain EBITDA positive with such a new company and little revenue to date?
Right. Well, I think the most important thing is to do this, we have to be really focused and very clear on what our strategy is and what we'll do and what we don't do. And so what we're not going to do is try to drive discovery and activation in retail, because that's really, really expensive. And what will happen is exactly what you described, is that money will run out and we wouldn't be able to do that. So what we're going to do is do that discovery and activation digitally, where that can be really efficient, where our margins are fantastic, where the fulfillment aspect is taken out of our hands. Amazon takes care of it, or our fulfillment does. So we can tell that story, and the country is our customer. We're not paying for slotting. We're not paying for brokers. We're not paying all that overhead just to have a product on a shelf and then try to activate it. So I think by focusing on digital and the merits in the emergence of digital, which is really where consumers are going to discover and purchase food, like snacks especially, we can do this. So it's a new way, in effect, to go to market, where those burns that you're describing and that risk that should be wary about is kind of taken off the table.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go to Nick with a quick question.
Sure. Thank you for being here. This is definitely interesting. I would love to try this product because I've tried a lot of the other ones out there. So I'm assuming that taste is going to be very favorable here, and is going to be something that people are going to like. And just thinking about your customer positioning, you've got paleo, you've got grain-free, you've got a number of organic ingredients, you've got egg white powder, which is the one kind of non-real plant-based thing that I see in there. And by the way, I love egg protein, so I think that's good. I'm trying to think about kind of what is if you're going to get to mainstream retail, kind of what is kind of the core customer that's going to be buying this? Because it feels like you could do a little more and go organic, and that would definitely differentiate you against everything. You could get rid of the organic egg white powder and put something else in potentially, and that would put you into completely plant-based. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to kind of figure out your vision there.
I think in a sense, maybe what you're asking is, who is this for? Right. Like, and
usage occasion.
Right. And I think that it's for folks seeking that maybe are interested in plant-based, but their diet isn't completely plant-based, because we're able to offer them the nutritive aspects along with the indulgence that really maybe what they're seeking out of plant-based. Formula, I mean, there are certain nutritive aspects that we really want to drive, and the egg white does a lot of lifting in that, in terms of delivering protein and its availability as a protein source. But kind of without getting into the weeds of formula, I think that I am interested in plant-based, but it's not my whole diet. And so I try to take that as a guide of what's the best product that we can make that can deliver on a promise, and let's make that, and then let that be the story that we tell, rather than trying to shoehorn ourselves into what is ever of the moment. And maybe its moment will pass in 6 months, and I don't know, or its moment will get really crowded. I've seen that happen so many times in food, where people that are really just very clear about the vision for the benefit seem to maybe have a little more durability.
Great. And we're right at 4:40, so I'm going to cut it off there so that we can spend the rest of our time talking about you behind your back. So, Jared, thanks for joining, and
thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so before we turn it over to our investor panel, I just want to say, a shout out to all four founders who or groups that did this, because it takes one, courage to get up and do this, especially when you know that a fair amount of your founder peers are going to be listening and going through the mental critique of it, and also because now they're left in a black hole to hear the feedback and so forth. But again, it's a fantastic learning opportunity, not only for them but for all of those attending. So I'll start with Sabrina. Just overall on the 4 pitches, some of the elements you liked, some of the things that you thought might be missing. Just kind of give us some feedback from your perspective.
Sure. So when I look at these, I come at it from 2 angles. One is as an investor, and one is as a consumer. And both of those are really important, important viewpoints for me to bring to the table. As a consumer, I think, there's a lot of merits to having a beautiful pitch or a nice communication strategy, or how you market it, and the colors and the things that draw you in, and all of that. I think, across the board, the founders did a great job. And obviously this is something that was practiced. It was something that they have fine-tuned. As an investor, there were some key things that I was missing also across the board. One was some of the financial, top line financial progress that these companies have experienced. So with the acknowledgement that these are all early stage, maybe other than Real Cocoa, all of these are early stage brands that are just kind of starting out and are just trying to get some traction. I still need to know, where are you in terms of your revenue? I need to know, what are you forecasting? There were some questions around, for me, around valuation. You have an ask, well, what is your valuation? Is this your Series Seed? Is it your, I don't remember which company went into what they've raised. Oh, Real Cocoa expressed what they've raised to date and what they want to raise moving forward. And that was really helpful to understand how much capital has been poured into your company to date. Is important for me to know. I want to understand now, what's the valuation and where are we going from here? Also, there were some questions around, I think every company, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, had a use of funds, which is really important. And if we had more time, I would drill into those use of funds. So for example, Real Cocoa, again, has a more robust team than the other 3. And one of their use of funds was to build out their team more. Or maybe I'm thinking of Fluid Cold Brew. They're looking to bring on some key hires. They have a more robust team than the other 3. And I want to understand, is this the right time for you to build out additional team members? So I think that, they did a really great job. All 4 of them have interesting products. They are differentiated. They have, items that they can kind of position differently. And I like that as a consumer. And as an investor, there were certain key things that I was missing, more from a technical standpoint, I would say, that I would drill into more.
That's great. That's great feedback. And the one thing I will say is that there is that balance between this being very public, right, and not disclosing things that are going to be widely available. But I do, I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to make this statement. I'm going to ask you, Ben, to react to it. Okay. And so one of the things that I encourage, and you can call bullshit on this, by the way, so I totally encourage you to do so. But one of the things that I encourage founders to do as they pitch is to think about it in this aspect. Investors are going to invest. That's what they do, right? So there's not a question of whether they're going to invest. The question is, why should they invest in you? And what is your path to monetization? How are you going to show that investor how you are going to make them money? I mean, that's ultimately what the objective is. So my question is twofold. One is, do you agree with that coaching? And 2, reflecting back on the 4 pitches that you just witnessed, do any of them stand out as to ones that seemingly maybe did a better job or missed the mark on expressing that monetization?
Sure. I do think that's effective coaching. I mean, in essence, after we speak to you, what we're going to do is go back and verify whether we agree with what your positioning is, what your projections are, whether your product is clearly differentiated enough and your messaging is clear enough. And we do our own modeling to see, if you grow at X amount, what would our underwriting expectations be? So to answer that proactively, Elliot, I think is great coaching. I would say across the board, something that I would have liked to see more of, to your second question, is a real clarity on hierarchy of brand values and positioning. It felt a little bit like we were trying to do everything. We're trying to be, a tastefully product. We're trying to ethically source. We're trying to be paleo. We're trying to, in that split second that a consumer is looking at your product either online or in store, I think trying to do everything actually waters out everything. So I don't think there was a clear example of this brand really clearly laid out. We are this first, and then these other things we believe in because it's part of our mission and our ethos, and it's on our website, and we're going to have that be part of our brand values, but it's not our first selling proposition.
I think that's hugely important. We've talked a lot about that, is that too many, and not just the four today, but just in general, too many brands are making too many messages, right? They're trying to be everything to everybody. And in fact, the best marketing tends to be polarizing. It tends to be, put a stake in the ground and really stand for something. So I think that's good feedback, interesting coaching. So Nick, question to you, just overall, what you thought about the presentations, and then I want to ask you a quick follow-up after that. So I'll let you go from there. So.
Sure. So it's a 5-minute presentation, and it's very public. And so kind of taking that into account, one thing I think about at this stage is you're founding a brand, and you've obviously got a really good idea, and you've got initial traction. So there's a seed of an idea that's planted. And the question is what is that going to grow into long term? Because an investor is going to need to exit the investment one day. And so the question is, if you're a Mozzie and you're in a category where you've got brands like Bear that have sold that have been, less than 50 million in revenue or so when they sell, you know what I mean? And you may not be a $100 million brand. Are you going to build that brand and build it for margin and kind of hold a price point and build for profitability? So that would mean for an investor that you may not be raising that much money. You may not need to go get a $10 million check one day. You might be raising a smaller amount and exiting based on EBITDA. The other piece of that too is just a little clearer definition of the white space. And all of these brands are all benefit because they're not trailblazing. They're all in categories where there's related products out there that you can reference velocity, you can look at SKUs, you can look at how things do on the shelf. But how is Real Coco's long-term vision, let's say, and I'm just picking that one just out of the four just because it's on the top of my head. They're not going to be Vita Coco. Vita Coco is the biggest in vitamin water, or coconut water. They're going to be something much larger. And they've got the creamer, and they've got, the supply chain. And, kind of how are they going to fit when they're very large one day? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
know it's hard to do in 5 minutes.
It is super. I mean, it's super hard to pitch, period. And it's super hard to do it in 5 minutes. And it gets back to, I think, Ben's earlier point in the fact that if you've got 5 minutes to meet with an investor, and you almost never even get a full 5 minutes before many will tune you out, are already predetermined in their head if this is something they're going to go forward. You've got one chance to make it interesting enough to get a second meeting. And you're never going to get a check after one meeting. The whole objective should be, let me tell you something compelling enough that you walk away going, I need to dig a little deeper. I want to know a little bit more. That, in an initial meeting. But Nick, my quick follow-up. Go ahead, Ben. Yeah, and then I'm going to go back to Nick.
The earliest you can put that clear positioning in the presentation, the better. I find a lot of founders will give me background, reason, story, history, and I'm 10 pages into a deck and I don't even know what the product is.
Yeah.
So the quickest you can tell me why I should be paying attention, how your product is different and how you're positioning it. So I thought Snack purposefully did that to some extent,
Yeah.
but then I'm not sure that the product was a exact match to that, right? So I don't know that what Amazi's kind of messaging really matches Snack purposefully, but assuming it is, that was a very clear, like, oh, I get that. I get what she's trying to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like being a songwriter. I mean, you want to have a hook. You want to hit something quick to get people to keep listening.
I just wanted to say that 5 minutes is very hard. It's hard to get everything you want to get to in 5 minutes. But what Ben mentioned before, which I think is very apt, is that you have a second to get the consumer. So if you can't get your pitch down to 5 minutes for an investor, how are you going to differentiate for a consumer off the shelf? These things are very much related, and you need to be able to fine tune it enough so that even off the shelf for a second with hundreds of other products in front of a consumer, they get it.
Yeah, and
especially in mainstream.
Yeah, especially mainstream. And what an exercise that I encourage everyone to do is, I mean, if you could only have one sentence to describe what it is that you are offering, what would that one sentence be? Because if you could get that down, you're a long way down the road from most people who cannot describe what they're doing in 10 minutes. And it's really, really hard to do because you're excited about it and you want to tell everybody about everything. So I'm going to come back to Nick with my follow-up question, but I'm going to go to Stephen and just get your thoughts on what you heard and any constructive feedback that you can offer.
Like everyone said, 5 minutes is difficult to explain the whole company. However, when you do have meetings with investors outside of this, is that sometimes I ask questions not to hear the answer. I want to hear your tone. I want to hear your perspective on it. Can you take an unbiased look at your company and pull your head out of the weeds and look at it from that 10,000 foot view? And I want to see that. And one of the good examples of that is asking a more detailed question to Real Coco. Brian knew those answers right off the top of his head. And it wasn't necessarily, are your margins great? It was, do you know the information and do you know it well? Can you present it well to me? Can you relay those answers to me well? It shows me that you are very involved in the company at a detailed level and you know the operations of it. So sometimes we ask questions not to know the answer, but for other questions behind it. So I think some of the companies did well with that. But overall, I think it was, they all did a great job.
That's great feedback. I think one of the things that I was actually coaching one of them on is that, when you do a pitch, if you can lead your pitch to actually get the kind of questions you want to answer, that bodes well. You got 5 minutes to pitch and you got a 5-minute Q&A. If you could, work in a way that moves the question so that you get to leverage that additional 5 minutes to be able to strengthen your argument as to why, that's in your benefit. And you have to think, you have to be like a good prosecutor. You're out there trying to prosecute a case, I think there's and again, it's so simple to take these things and have this kind of conversation and talk about what you could do and deconstruct it and make suggestions. It's really hard to try to convey to somebody in 5 minutes when you care deeply about what you're doing, when this is everything and you're trying to birth something or grow something or do it. I will say this, and I say this a lot, so those who listen to this often are probably going to roll their eyes when I do, but the superpower ultimately still comes back down to empathy. And you have to go into these conversations with a bent towards empathy in terms of who your audience is. So if your audience is an investor or an investor cohort, thinking through their lens, looking through their lens and trying to identify what is it that they would want to know, want to hear, want to understand, or get a sense of before they further the conversation. And also then know what your next goal is, your next step. So Nick, my follow-up quick question was, you are the data guy, right? So these brands, with the exception of Real Cocoa, but they're still, because they were really driven through Costco. All of these brands are pretty early stage. Any suggestions how they get their hands or how they can leverage data in these types of presentations and these pitches, but also just internally to make better decisions?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I did, take a look through spins at all of them, and even Real Cocoa is not going to be in there a lot because they're in Costco, which does not report to spins. So I think you have to use what you have. Whole Foods doesn't report to spins, but they have a great portal. Use the portal. It tells you every store, what your average price, was that you sold in a week. It's got a tremendous amount of information, and you can actually use that data to show, hey, when I have a TPR of 50 cents, look at my lift. If it's 25 cents, look at this lift. If I demo, it's this. Amazon, you can track your trends. There's a lot of data there. Costco, knowing in each region how much you sell per store per week is really important, and it varies a lot by region and a lot by category. And investors are going to be smart. They're going to have a lot of data points. They're going to know what's good and what's not. So I think use what you have.
Yeah. And also, I would say every time you have a conversation with a retailer or an investor who sees things more globally or holistically, it's a great opportunity to ask for input or ask for feedback, or what are you seeing in the market, or so forth. And that's the other thing that I wish founders would do more of. First of all, is ask for help and ask for input and ask for feedback. And at the same time, also make sure that they're saying, here's some of the mistakes or things I've tried that didn't work, which I think, Jared does a fairly good job of doing. It's hard to do in 5 minutes, but, he learned his lessons rushing to retail. So Ben, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to use that cool raise my hand feature.
You are high tech.
So Stephen mentioned something, and I think this is actually very, very, very important to kind of elaborate on, is there's a whole meta conversation that's going out throughout this process that I think entrepreneurs really need to be aware of. How you do this interaction is almost more important than what. So are you on time to our meeting? Do you send materials when you're asked to send materials? Do you follow up in a timely manner? Are you respectful of our time? Are you knowledgeable with the information? So we're listening to, and whether it's fair or not, whether you're able to be responsible within our timelines could be a reflection of how you run your own business. Whether you are respectful and knowledgeable with the questions asked could be a reflection of how you might be to work with us if we sit on your board, right? So just to be aware of that kind of larger umbrella process is, at least for us, very much top of mind.
If I can just build off of that for a moment, because I think it's so important that as investors who've been doing this for a little while now, and we have 16 companies in our portfolio, and we could argue that all of them have brilliant products, but the truth is, at the end of the day, what we've learned is we are investing in a team. We're investing in the entrepreneurs. We're investing in the team that they're building around themselves. The product could be the most brilliant, cutting edge thing in the world, but if it's the wrong team, it's done. And we've seen that. We've experienced it firsthand. So how you are presenting yourself is super important, but also how you see the landscape beyond your company and beyond your product is also equally important. Because frankly, as an entrepreneur, you are, with blinders on, kind of putting your heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into your company and your product, and you're coming and pitching to an investor who is frankly inundated, particularly right now in the food and beverage space, inundated with opportunities of the next best thing. And so you have a limited amount of time to not only express your vision and your passion, but why you are the person or you are the team that an investor should risk their capital in, right? It's not just the product, it's much more the team. And that's something that should also come through in the pitch.
I think that's super important coaching. And because working with an investor is very much a relationship. It's like being in a marriage, and we've all seen those that have gone well, and we've all seen those that haven't. And I also think, you should, as a founder, you should do a little pre-due diligence on the investors you're going to talk to. Know what's in their portfolio. Maybe call one of those founders up and say, hey, what's it like to work with them? And, tell me about when the shit hits the fan and, what's it like then? And be able to communicate that, hey, I talked to this founder, and they really had great things to say. Or, one of the things that was mentioned by a founder who shall remain nameless was that, Steven's really difficult to work with, which, that's fairly public information.
Not believable for 1 second.
Yeah, not at all.
Person.
Nick, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I really like how Sabrina referenced the landscape around the product. I think that's just a very clear way of also saying, the white space. And that is just so important. I really like the way you said that, and I'm going to use that.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah. We're over time, so I'll let everyone kind of give one last thought. And first of all, just thank you all for doing this. I think, having this kind of insight, this kind of feedback, and we might just do a future podcast episode just on this, just talking with investors about what they're seeing and what they're wanting, because it's a hard, necessary part of this business for founders, and many of them don't understand that a capital strategy is as important as your go-to-market strategy and everything else around it. Because if you build this great race car and fail to focus on having the right fuel to get it down the track, then you're not going to go very far. So in closing, I'll just go around the circle, starting with Sabrina. Just any last remarks, and thank you again for joining.
Pleasure. Yeah, I think the thing that I want to leave with everyone is that what I alluded to before, we are currently in the renaissance of organic, natural food and beverage, so many different products coming to market that are exciting and new, which provides a challenge and it provides an opportunity for entrepreneurs. The challenge, obviously, being that there's so much already out there that it's rare that your product is going to be new enough, right? Differentiated enough. I think that a lot of people in our generation fancy themselves entrepreneurs, and they think it's easy. They think they can be their own boss. They think that it's, the high life. And before going into this, challenge yourself on if this is something, are you filling a white space? Are you really filling a consumer need or demand that is not currently being filled? Are you ready for the unbelievable challenge that you are going to be faced with in building a company, in the immense responsibility of taking other people's money and being that custodian? Because it's not just, it's not growing on trees. It means a lot to people, particularly in your Series Seed round or even before that. Oftentimes entrepreneurs are raising money from their friends and family. And, that is meaningful for these people who are putting their trust and their money in your company. So before you create a pitch that sounds exciting and sexy, make sure that you are coming to market and coming to investors with something that you really are ready to back, with the challenge, the ups and downs, and everything that is associated with that. There is a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of opportunity out there. There is a lot of white space out there when you see it and angle it in the right way. Just make sure you're coming with a clear picture of what that really looks like.
That's great. Nice wisdom. You need like a mic drop now. So boom. Sabrina out. All right, going to you, Ben.
Sure. First, just a real acknowledgement of the immense risk, bravery, courage it takes to even consider being an entrepreneur. And a lot of times, just given how much is going on for investors, and I think most of us try our best to be courteous and give responses and give feedback. The truth of the matter is sometimes we don't. And to really acknowledge that could be hurtful, right? This is your baby. You're pouring everything into it, potentially your capital as well. And the thing I'll say to it as much as I can is to not take it personally, And as much as you can, when you are launching, as a follow-up to Sabrina's kind of relevance, challenging your relevance point, is get really clear on the why. The why for you, the why for the consumer, the why for the community, and the why for your stakeholders, which are your retailers, your investors, anybody else who's really a stakeholder in your business. I'd put that up so you can look at it every day, so that as you come up against your challenges, your no's, your rejections, you can circle back to your why and say, okay, how can I fulfill these whys from a different avenue? So if Echo is going to say no to me, how am I going to get the capital that I need? If Erewhon says no to me, what's the right stakeholder for the product that I'm trying to position? I think having a North Star emotionally, commercially is really important, because it's a rough and tumble journey. So thank you for all that you're doing to launch what you're launching.
That's another really, really important message. Thank you for that. So yeah, nice job. So, going to Stephen and Nick, you guys got to come with the goods here.
I don't follow those two up. But I just want to say it takes a lot of courage to get up here and pitch your companies and how passionate you are about it. It takes a lot of courage to do that. So I just want to say thank you for that and acknowledge that. And I also want to say that the food ecosystem, we're a very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, not just investors, but the retailers and buyers and service providers. We all know each other, and we all have this overriding a thought of, we want to make this space better. We want to make it better for everybody. So if it isn't right for us, or if it isn't right for a retailer, ask, like, who else can you put me in contact with or connect me with, because we want to see everyone succeed, because it's just going to make this category better. So that's my little tidbit there.
Great tidbit. I wouldn't call it little. All right, Nick, bringing it home.
Well, it's a really high bar here that you guys have set. So I guess a couple quick things. One is, I do think that it is really humbling to me to see, what founders do to grow companies, particularly, in the early stages. Every winning formula is very different. So I think if you are talking to other founders and other people who have done it successfully, more data points are good, because everyone is like a unique puzzle. And I guess the second one is, and by the way, that's a puzzle where it's just daunting to me to think about, if I was ever, a founder and trying to do it, how difficult it would be and how inadequate I would be at doing it. The second one is as your investor checks get larger, the importance of the strategic, visionary fit and cultural with you and that investor goes up too. So because you're bringing somebody into your team that is not going to go away. And, I think a lot of people they'll get that first offer of whatever, a $5 million check, a $10 million check, and it's very exciting, but they don't kind of fully vet out, hey, do we really see the world the same way? And 3 years from now, are we going to be still on the same page with decisions? And a lot's going to change between now and then. But remember, investors all have money, and the reason why successful investors are successful is because they can do something in their playbook, most likely, that's different and better than other investors. And if you can find the investor that has the playbook that lines up with you and the strategic vision and the culture, you're going to be that much more successful. And the larger the check, the more important that is.
So more great wisdom. I'll end with a few things. First of all, thank you to the founders for doing this. Not only for being here and being willing to be vulnerable, but just doing this, being part of innovation and part of an entrepreneurial economy. It's awesome. It inspires me. I love working in this space, and it's something that I think few people get the opportunity to witness, is that passion and that deep conviction doing something that's meaningful. So, and I also want to thank the investor panel for joining, because it's, again, one of my hopes is to somewhat demystify and make this whole process a little less scary for founders. The reality is that most founders are going to get 99 no's for every one yes. And that's hard. That's crushing to have that happen. if you take them as no's. If you take them as not now, not yet, not for us, and move on, and know that it's just very, very difficult, and use every one of these conversations as a learning opportunity. It's a learning opportunity to become better at being able to express what it is that makes you different, and makes you a monetizable or exciting investment. But also, take back some of the hard questions that are asked, and can you use them to become a better business, become a better founder, become a better brand? Because there's always room to do that. So again, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining and listening. Appreciate this, and take care, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Elliot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.